Welcome to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you're looking to retire early with forever passive income, you're in the right place. This podcast is the go-to destination for real estate investors, both active and passive, and multifamily apartment investors, both new, intermediate, and advanced. Now, sit back, listen, learn, and accelerate your business, your life, and your investing with the Accelerated Investor Podcast.
So hey there, welcome back to Accelerated Investor with Josh Cantwell. I'm your host, and we're going to continue our discussion today around the 9 traits of elite entrepreneurs. If you've been following along the last couple days, couple weeks, we've been discussing the traits and characteristics of elite entrepreneurs, people that I've been able to rub elbows with, people that I've coached and mentored, people that I've been coached and mentored by. Also, some discussions I've had with some very prolific investors like Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, Barbara Corcoran, Damon John, Jack Canfield. You know, I've been able to have a number of one-on-one discussions with them at my events and on this podcast. And I thought over the last several months about some of these elite traits, these elite entrepreneurs, and what kind of traits it takes to become elite. What are some commonalities that I see within these investors that have 8, 9 figure businesses? And certainly I look at these traits, these 9 traits, and think these are very important to me. We have a $250 million portfolio. We just offered on another $6 million property. We're offering on another $17 million property, and we continue to build our portfolio regardless of the economy, because I know that multifamily investing for cash flow is where it's at regardless of the economy. And so we keep doing that. And so certainly, put myself in this category as well, what we've accomplished and what we've done. And so when people ask me, well, Josh, what's made you successful? How are you able to build a portfolio of 4,300 apartment units, currently active 3,000 that we're currently managing, a construction company, property management companies, and our headquarter team? What does it take? So over the last couple of weeks, we've talked about number one of the first traits was to invest for cash flow now. Number 2, to take 100% responsibility for your life, okay, and for everything around it. The third characteristic of elite entrepreneurs is that they have super time management skills. And we talked about some of the ways to do that. And then the fourth characteristic was to avoid and refuse to be around leeches. And then that brings me to this episode, which is characteristic and trait number 5, which is, those investors and entrepreneurs that I've seen that have built big businesses, that have a lot of happiness, that have a lot of free time and a lot of cash flow, is that number 5, they use technology as a weapon. Okay, I'll repeat that. They use technology as a weapon. And so many people think like, well, I've built this big business, or I've built this business and I'm making $200,000 a year. And I want to get to $500,000 a year. Great. And then they muscle it a little bit more. They try a little harder. They work a few more hours and they get to $500,000 a year. And now they're like, okay, I'm already kind of bursting at the seams. Our company is making, let's say, $5 million of gross income with a 10 or a 15% margin. And we're making $500,000 to $750,000 a year of net free cash flow. And I want to get that to $1 million, $1.5 million. Well, again, I hire more people, I work a few more hours, and I push the business to almost $10 million of gross income. And I've had numerous businesses that have done this. And all of a sudden your margins, although you're still making a profit, the profit margin gets a little thinner. So instead of making a 15 or 20% margin, now you're making a 10% margin. And instead of working 40 hours a week, now you're working 70. And it's very easy to see that business as unsustainable. Okay, it's not sustainable. And so then you ask yourself, well, how do I grow a larger business? So when I was at one of my events, this is going back about 5 years ago, I was sitting with Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank in the green room in the back, and we talked about this. And he said, Josh, the way that I've seen people that have gotten funded on Shark Tank and build big businesses is they use technology as a weapon. They use technology as a way to manage their business, and it's something that they absolutely won't bend on. They just absolutely are fanatical about using technology as a weapon. As we've built this $250 million multifamily portfolio, we couldn't do it without software. Okay, we couldn't do it without using technology as a weapon. So we use different technologies like Infusionsoft for email marketing and for database management and for web forms on our websites. We use a software called Buildertrend to manage our construction projects. We use a software called HappyCo for due diligence. We use a software called AppFolio for investor management and for property management. We use QuickBooks for software for our P&Ls and balance sheets. Our property management companies use software programs like Yardi and also AppFolio for their property management. So we probably have 8 different softwares that we use. And because those allow me to have insight into the business, they all do something different. One of them's for construction, one of them's for marketing, one of them's for P&Ls, one's for due diligence, one for property management, one's for investor relations. They're all slightly different. There's no one software that can do it all. Okay, so there's a couple things that I wanted to tell you about, a couple different kind of tips I have to have you do a better job at adopting software and using it as a weapon. Because everybody that I know that's built an 8 or a 9-figure business uses software. Okay. So the first thing I want to mention here is that in my company, my business partner, Glenn, he started saying years ago, he started using this kind of tagline or this slogan, which was, if it's not in the software, it didn't happen. Okay. So one of the things that we've said to our team, and this is kind of tip number 1, to begin regularly using software. Okay. Tip number 1 is to make it a requirement. Okay. Make it a requirement. This is something that we require of our team. It's something that we tell our team they must do, they must use. Okay. And they have to do it. It's just part of the business. If it's not in the software, it didn't happen. Okay, so don't tell me about it. If you have notes around construction, it better be in Buildertrend. If you have a budget for due diligence, it better be in HappyCo. If you have rents and leases that you're signing, they better be in AppFolio. If you have a marketing funnel with new leads, that better be in Infusionsoft. Okay. If we have new investor leads and notes for investors, it better be inside of the AppFolio investor management portal. Okay. You make it a requirement. If it's not in the software, it didn't happen. Right. So that's the first thing is making sure that leadership makes it a requirement. That's tip number 1, to adopt software. Number 2, make it part of your team's review. Okay. So we tell people, look, if you're not using the software, remember, it's a requirement. We established that in tip number 1 to try to get your team to adopt more technology and use it as a weapon, make it a requirement. Then number 2, make it part of their review. If your team and your employees and your staff knows that their software adoption is part of their compensation, it's part of their review of getting a good review, it's part of their compensation of getting a change in title, increase in pay, a good review, or an advancement to another level of your business, make it part of their review. And then during the review, ask them to demonstrate to you how they've used software and technology as a weapon. Okay, remember, compensation, guys, drives behavior. So if it's part of their review and it's going to affect their compensation, it's going to drive their behavior. So they can come to the review and they can say, yeah, look, I've adopted all of our software. I use Infusionsoft for marketing, or I use Buildertrend for construction, or I use AppFolio for investor management. Here's how I've used it. Here's how I've made things easier. In AppFolio, I've set up autoresponders, or I've set up, a funnel for investors. Great. It's part of your review. You get a bonus or you get a salary increase. So that's tip number 2. Make it part of your team's review. Number 3, remind your team that the software was built for them. The software was purpose-built for them to collaborate together to make their job easier. Your business is never going to grow to an 8 or a 9-figure business if you're relying on text messages and emails, phone calls, back and forth. Hey, we just accomplished this. Hey, we just turned this unit. Hey, we just finished up this construction project. We just added this, these new windows or this new roof or this new budget. If I have to dig through my email to find all that or dig through my text messages, I am never going to build a 7 or an 8 or a 9-figure business. So remind your team that the software was purpose-built for them to collaborate to make their job easier and faster. Are you ready to automate and explode your real estate investing? We're searching for extremely motivated individuals who are sick and tired of wasting time and want to finally see real results from their real estate investing business. We're searching for investors looking to get to the next level and become a bigger, better version of themselves while being a more successful real estate investing entrepreneur. Apply for mentoring and coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast. That's joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast. Tip number 4, make sure that the onboarding and the ongoing usage is easy and friendly. Okay, tip number 4, the user, your staff member, your team member, must be able to onboard the software, use it immediately, have it be user-friendly, and make the ongoing usage very simple. Okay? If it's hard, if they've got to click all kind of buttons, if they go back, they got to go forward, they got to click this, they got to add that. The more complicated, the less usage. The more complicated, the less growth you're going to have. Okay, it's got to be simple. It's got to be user-friendly so that they can onboard it quickly and use it all the time. Okay. Number 5, find an internal team member who uses it religiously. Okay. Find some internal team users or champions on your team that will say, hey, I use the software all the time. I'm in the software. How come it's not in the software? I put it in the software. Did you see my note in the software? Okay. They're using technology as a weapon to make everybody else's job easier. So one of our examples is in my company, our director of project management that works inside of our construction company. His name is Brian Pfaffenberger. I've known Brian since I was in grade school, actually. We were, good friends in high school, good friends in college. We still play fantasy football together. He works for us. He's a great team member, but Brian has been our kind of internal team champion where he uses the software religiously to update documents, budgets, contracts, paperwork, notes, photos. He uses it religiously. Everybody on the team knows that Brian's the team champion, uses it all the time. Okay. Number 6, right? We want the onboarding to be as non-disruptive as possible. Okay. You don't want software to stop your business and be disruptive. Okay. So what I would recommend is that you use 10% of the software for the first 3 months. Okay. So tip number 6, to make this non-disruptive is use 10% of the software. Find out 1 piece or 2 pieces or 3 pieces of the software that's easy to use, that's non-disruptive, and have them just start using that. Everybody, when they buy software, they're spending, $500 a month or $1,000 a month or whatever the number is. They're like, we want to use it all right away. That ain't going to work, right? So tip number 6 is to use 10% of the software and have your team using it religiously, right? So it's non-disruptive. It's actually better, easier, faster. Okay. And if you use 10% of it, it's like, okay, well, the expectation, the bar is set pretty low. versus, hey, I want to use all the software tomorrow. And then your team's like, oh my God, there's so much to use here. It's too confusing. It's too disruptive. Okay. Tip number 7 to use technology as a weapon is to make sure that your leadership, the C-suites, the CEO, the CFO, the CSO, the COO, the C whatever, the C-suite, make sure they are using it. Your leadership team must adopt and use the software regularly. You can't expect everybody else to use it. And then your leadership team just says, well, I'm in the C-suite. I don't need to use it. I don't have to use it. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Your C-suite, your leadership also must adopt and use the software regularly. So whoever your team champion is, if they're a director level, VP level, if you can get some of the C-suite to use the software, okay, that's the best way to do it. Now, let me tell you how I use it, okay? So a number of these softwares I mentioned, Basecamp, Buildertrend, Appfolio, Infusionsoft, they have apps, okay? And I can use those right on my phone. Well, when I have downtime, let's say I'm at the gym working out, I can look up these softwares. I can use the app right from my phone, and I can make comments, upload photos, ask questions inside the software while I'm at the gym. So my team sees that I'm using it, but it's also maybe not disrupting other things I want to get done during my normal business day. Okay. So whether it's downtime, let's say I'm at my son's baseball game and they're in between innings, or my son's not up to bat, you know, I could log in and check things out and make comments and upload photos and look at budgets and still not miss my son's baseball game. Okay. If I'm at a volleyball tournament, my daughter plays at, like, say, 8 o'clock, and she's off at 9, and then she plays at 10. I've got an hour of downtime. I can look at the software. I can make comments. I can adopt it as a leader, and it's not disrupting my free time. It's not disrupting my time with my daughter. I'm not sacrificing watching her game or taking pictures of her or paying attention to my kid, because I'm doing it in between the games when nothing's going on, or at the gym, or on the toilet, or while I'm sitting at the campsite. Okay, you get the idea. There's downtime that I could be doing this. Okay. All right. And finally, my last tip for you, number 8. Okay. 8 tips on how to use technology as a weapon. This is, again, one of the traits of an elite entrepreneur and an 8-figure investor, is to close every day with updates and usage of the software, even for 10 minutes. Close every day making comments, uploading photos, uploading budgets, uploading documents, adding tasks, checking things off. Close every day with updates and usage of the technology. And honestly, I learned this over 20 years ago when I was just out of college. I lived with one of my roommates. And I was maybe 22. He was about 25. He was in pharmaceutical sales. And every day, at the end of the day, he would be out in the field. He'd throw on his nice suit, driving his nice car, go call on doctors, go to hospitals, come back. And at night, he would sit on the living room floor with his receipts, with his proposals, with his computer, and he would update the software. It was a requirement, going all the way back to number 1 and number 2, our first 2 tips. It was a requirement, and it was part of his review. So guess what he did? He wanted a promotion. He wanted a bonus. He wanted a salary increase. He wanted a new job title. He wanted a larger territory. It was a requirement that they update it every day at the end of the day when they were done with their day. And it was part of his review. In order for him to get this bonus or get more compensation, he had to be using the software. Compensation drives behavior. So close out every day. Have your team close out every day, spend the last 15 minutes of their day updating the software. Okay, upload your receipts, upload a new budget, cross off. You have tasks that had to be done, cross them off, mark them as complete. If there's a task you have to create for somebody else, create a new task for somebody different. Okay, if it's a marketing funnel, like update the marketing funnel with whatever new copy that you wanted to use. Okay. If it's, for recruiting and managing investors at the end of the day, put in your notes around those investors. So the next time you talk to an investor, you can say, hey, remember last time we talked about your wife and your kids, and you like to ski and you like to climb mountains and you went to Europe when you were 18 years old, and you can rehash the conversation quickly to make that relationship. So close every day with updates and usage of the software. So as I close out this podcast and this video training, let's rehash this number 5. Again, this is part of the 9 traits of elite entrepreneurs and 8-figure multifamily investors. Trait number 5 is to use technology as a weapon. And the 8 tips to use technology as a weapon is: number 1, make it a requirement. Number 2, make it part of your staff's review. Number 3, the software, let them know that the software is purpose-built for them to collaborate. Number 4, make the onboarding and usage super user-friendly. Number 5, make sure you have an internal team champion like Brian who uses it religiously. Number 6, for the first 3 months, only use 10% of the software. Okay, make it non-disruptive. Number 7, make sure your leadership adopts the software. And number 8, close every day with updates and usage. Well, guys, there you have it. And by the way, this is one of the strategies that I teach inside of our coaching and mastermind and partnering program. It's called Forever Passive Income. And so many people that are in that program are telling me, look, Josh, this isn't just about investing in multifamily. What you're teaching us is how to build a real business. What you're teaching us is how to build a 7, 8, 9-figure business like you have. And you're showing us the real strategy behind building it, what's behind the curtain, not just talking high-level concepts, but talking in the dirt about how to actually do it. And so if you want to apply for that mastermind or coaching program, go to freelandventures.com, and there you can click on the coaching program, or you can click on the mastermind program. And there you can make an application. You'll get on the phone with us. We'll interview you. We'll see if you're a fit, and we'll go from there. So go to freelandventures.com and check out the application for the coaching and mentorship and mastermind program. Guys, listen, this is one of my favorite episodes. I love talking about this because I know it's so critical to growing a big business. And it's something I think so many people miss out on. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so honored if you would go back and share this all over social media. Share it to your Facebook, share it to your Instagram, your LinkedIn. Leave us a comment, leave us a rating, leave us a review. I'd love to, get that kind of feedback to know that we're doing a good job and that you're getting value from this. So whether it's in Spotify, whether it's in YouTube, whether it's in iTunes, let us know how we're doing. Leave us a comment, leave us a rating, leave us a review, share this on social media. I'd be so privileged and honored if you would do that for me. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
You were just listening to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something new, help us build the AI community by leaving a review and 5-star rating on our iTunes podcast channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. To see passive investing opportunities, visit freelandventures.com/passive. To start your journey toward the lifestyle you've always dreamed of with multifamily apartments, apply for one-on-one coaching with Josh at www.joshcantwellcoaching.com.